The Pittsburgh Steelers made second-year wide receiver Roman Wilson inactive for their Week 14 contest against the Baltimore Ravens, a move that reverberated across Steelers Nation and generated significant discussion among analysts, fans, and even former players. On the surface, it was a simple roster decision. Teams make adjustments every week, elevate certain players, demote others, and reorganize depth charts based on matchups, injuries, and strategic preferences. But this particular decision carried far more weight, not because Wilson had been lighting up the stat sheet, but because of the expectations surrounding him and the surprising nature of the personnel choice. Heading into such a high-stakes AFC North rivalry game, most observers assumed Wilson's athleticism, route running, and versatility would merit a spot on the active roster. Instead, the Steelers opted to go with a receiving core of DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, Adam Thielen, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Scotty Miller, and Ben Skoranek, a combination that leaned heavily on experience, specialization, and players with very clearly defined roles within Arthur Smith's offensive system. The Steelers' decision to scratch Wilson came as a shock largely because it contradicted the developmental trajectory many believed the organization had mapped out for him. Wilson had shown growth since entering the league, demonstrating the kind of subtle improvements, better route leverage, timing, body control at the top of routes, and improved understanding of defensive coverages that coaches typically reward with increased playing time. Yet after the game, head coach Mike Tomlin offered a succinct explanation. Scotty Miller received the nod over Wilson due to his abilities as a backup punt returner. According to Tomlin, special teams depth mattered more than Wilson's potential contributions as a traditional wideout in this particular matchup. While technically valid, the explanation fell flat for many. Fans and analysts were quick to point out that backup punt returner duties rarely override offensive talent unless the staff has already deprioritized the player in question. In that sense, Tomlin's reasoning became less of a justification and more of an indirect statement about where Wilson actually stands in the hierarchy of the Steelers' offense. Does that explanation feel satisfying to anyone? Of course not. Tomlin's comment, while delivered in his characteristically straightforward manner, did little to quell frustration or offer meaningful context. What it did do, however, was reveal, intentionally or not, that Wilson is on the outside looking in when it comes to the organization's plans for the stretch run of the season. Coaches rarely bench a young, athletic receiver unless they have fully committed to alternative options that they trust more in critical moments. In essence, Wilson's benching served as an organizational verdict, a silent but resounding message that the Steelers no longer view him as a necessary component of their current offensive identity. Don't expect the second-year pass catcher to suit up for many more games this season, if any. The Steelers appear ready to ride with the receiving unit that contributed to their Week 14 victory, a group that played efficiently, complemented quarterback Aaron Rodgers' reads, and executed Arthur Smith's offensive structure with greater cohesion than earlier in the year. For all intents and purposes, this feels like the end of the line for Roman Wilson's 2025 season. There were scattered moments of promise, the occasional crisp route, moments of separation against quality coverage, flashes of chemistry with Rodgers during limited reps. But none of those flashes translated into a defined role or consistent opportunities. The optimism surrounding his potential, which some fans held onto with genuine enthusiasm, has evaporated under the weight of the team's strategic choices. It would be unwise for fans to continue holding out hope that Wilson will suddenly emerge as a reliable downfield threat over the final stretch of the season. His path to playing time has narrowed dramatically, and every decision from the coaching staff reinforces that reality. He is not even a threat to be one of the 53 active players on game day moving forward. This truth, harsh as it sounds, is not an indictment of Wilson's talent or effort. In fact, a more detailed review of his on-field performance paints a very different picture. Anyone who has watched the all-22 footage from games in which Wilson has played will notice that he consistently creates separation. He has a natural feel for uncovering in both man and zone coverages, understanding how to manipulate leverage and attack blind spots. The Steelers have deployed him on a variety of routes: deep crossers, go routes, shallow drags, vertical stems, curls, out routes, layered combination routes, and he has shown an encouraging ability to adapt mid-route, settle into soft spots, and present a clean target for the quarterback. These traits normally point to a player deserving of a larger role, not a diminished one. The problem is not Wilson's skill set. The problem lies in his place within Arthur Smith's scheme. Smith's offense is built around predetermined primary reads, structured progressions, and a heavy emphasis on timing. On most passing plays, the quarterback, in this case Aaron Rodgers, is coached to look immediately to a designated primary target, then move to a secondary option, then a tertiary outlet, before ultimately checking the ball down if the intended design collapses or if pressure disrupts the timing. In this type of system, receivers who are not designated early read options often find themselves running routes that never become relevant within the time frame of the play. Wilson is often the final progression, the if everything else fails option in a progression sequence. By the time Rodgers gets to that read, the play has typically already broken down or shifted to a check down. The result is a talented player running effective routes that rarely receive the football because the offensive design sends the ball elsewhere long before Wilson can become part of the play's structure. While Wilson works to earn his way back onto the active roster, the Steelers have gained confidence in their passing game without him. In the win over the Ravens, Rodgers completed passes to 10 different players, showcasing remarkable distribution and a willingness to trust a wide array of weapons. DK Metcalf and Kenny Gainwell were the most targeted players once again, continuing a consistent pattern that has emerged throughout the season. Metcalf's sheer physical dominance makes him a natural focal point, while Gainwell's reliability as both a pass catcher and check-down safety valve fits perfectly within this offense's rhythm. Now, Rodgers, Arthur Smith, and the entire Steelers coaching staff have increased confidence in the receivers that sit behind Metcalf and Gainwell on the depth chart. Adam Thielen provides reliable hands and veteran savvy, perfectly complementing Rodgers' preference for precise timing and route detail. Calvin Austin III brings speed and playmaking potential in space, adding an explosive dimension the Steelers desperately need. Marquez Valdes-Scantling continues to operate as the primary vertical threat, stretching defenses horizontally and vertically to create spacing for underneath concepts. Even Scotty Miller and Ben Skowronek have carved out defined situational roles, Miller as a special teams contributor and occasional slot option. Skowronek is a physical blocker and possession receiver in select packages. The coaching staff appears satisfied, perhaps even confident, in this reconfigured receiving group. They believe it gives them the best chance to operate efficiently, manage Rodgers' strengths, and maintain rhythm within a scheme that demands timing and precision. And whether fans agree or not, the Steelers seem to have taken a necessary step forward on offense, finally showing signs of cohesiveness after weeks of inconsistency. As a result, Roman Wilson remains the odd man out, a talented player whose skills, for now, simply do not fit the team's present needs, structure, or priorities. Whether his long-term future in Pittsburgh brightens or continues to dim is a question for another offseason, but for the remainder of 2025, the Steelers have made their stance unmistakably clear. Comment if you think Roman Wilson should have more chances to shine this season. Thanks for watching and see you soon.